Hello everyone, this is CY once again. Today I just received a parcel. I purchased this Mugen dripper because a friend of mine is using it, and I want to do some comparison between this with the V60 as well as the origami drippers. So let's open this. Right, I bought it locally in Singapore from one of the online store. Right, so there's the outer box. This can be recycled. So this is the Hario Mugen dripper V60. Right, so let's open this and see. So this is the dripper. Right, so let's get to it to see whether what kind of flavor we can get from this I think this will probably have. I think the filter paper will stick very well to the wall because there's no ribs as compared to the V60 paper. So we'll compare this to the Hario V60. Right, so let's try to fold the paper and then to see whether how well the dripper attach the how well you can attach to the wall. So same thing, I'm just going to wet it. You can see there's actually pockets of air. Right, this is my first time using and I've not watched any video on how to use this. So at first you can see there are pockets of air. I think I've probably done it wrongly. So let me get a slightly larger one. Probably this is too small. So let's change another one. Alright, this size is better. So I think to fit better, I'm going to slightly push in the paper. Right. Then I will rinse it with water. Right, so you can see it is better, and you can see all the wall becomes translucent. You don't see much air bubbles to it. So I think it requires a slightly larger, at least for my experience, it requires a slightly larger filter paper. Or maybe for the first try, I did not push in the paper deep enough, right? Right, okay, so I think this should be pretty okay. So let's do on the V60. I think for V60, we also use a slightly larger filter paper for it, right, to be consistent. Right, so same thing, let's fold the filter paper to the side. Right, same thing for the V60. I'm going to hold the ribs. Right, this is my style of aligning the paper. So you can see the difference between the two. Right, this one has bypass. So water can actually flow through to the side of the coffee bed. This one, there's very minimal bypass because the filter paper adhere totally, almost totally 100% to the side wall. Right, so this one will probably have very low bypass. Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? So this one has ribs, this one no ribs. So let's try. And for today's grinder, I'm going to use the K6. I've not been using this for quite a while, right? The grind settings on the K6 for today's brew will be at 90, right? So it will be from actual 0, whereby your coffee or your crank doesn't move at all, and you crank up to 90 clicks from 0 setting, right? So I'm going to use 90. And for the coffee, I'm going to brew 18 grams of coffee to 300 grams of water. And for today's coffee, I'm going to use the new Yunnan bean that we are bringing into ASK Coffee Roastery. Right, this is the new coffee beans from the Xishuang Ban Na. It's a Caturra. It's no longer the Catimo, the usual Catimo that we have for our Yunnan coffee. This is a Caturra. Right, this is a wash Caturra. So let's measure uh, 18 grams of coffee. Right, usually my videos I tend to show the entire process of me grinding coffee and brewing coffee, right? I try not to skip all these things. So let's put in the 18 grams. I have already put some beans inside to remove the previous coffee, right? I would say K6 is pretty enjoyable in terms of grinding, right? The grip is good, the diameter is big enough, it's not too big for my Asian hands. The bean catcher, the grind catcher tend to shake off loose a little bit when I grind, but that's usually common to most of this screw-in type of manual hand grinder catch cut system. Right, so you can see the grind is pretty fast, right? And within less than a minute, I think should be ready. Right, okay, let's can see here I didn't spray some water to remove the static, and then usually I'll just use a brush to sort of brush off so that we can have a clean one. Right, so before we start, I make sure that I clean it, and then I will continue to grind the second 18 grams, right? For today's water, I'm going to brew at 92 degrees Celsius. I'm going to use pretty much the same recipe, right? But at home, I only have one coffee scale, so I'm going to brew the 2 cups separately. I will probably be brewing my V60 first because I'm more familiar with the V60. I'm not too sure I'm not too sure what to expect on the brew time because it's going to be slightly different. Right, let's get another. Okay, I tell you what, let's heat up this and then we pour the coffee beans inside. Right, so that we can free this catch cup. Alright, so let's grind another 18 grams. Oops, I think I accidentally turned it. Okay. Remember my grind setting is at 90. Right, so the grind setting will be the same for both. Alright, so it's good. Okay, to do the same thing, I'm going to sort of heat up the dripper. Alright, let me get some more water. Okay, so while waiting for the water to heat it up, let me just get ready. Right, you can see the usual slight static. So this is not terrible. This is sort of pretty common for hand grinder that's like that. And usually I like to do a little bit of cleaning up. You can see at the side there's some coffee, and inside there's also some coffee remaining. So I'm just going to use the same brush to clean off. Right, this is just my usual habit. And then just close it back. Okay, let's put this aside and then we can start to brew the first one. Right, 50 grams. Right, I will be using the same recipe, right? So basically 50 grams of water for about 40 seconds, 40 to 45 seconds of bloom. Okay, let's continue. Right, the second pour will be 80 grams of water. Because the V60 tends to have bypass, so I will try not to have water going through the side. I will just be focusing on the around the center, and then finish off at the middle. Here, another 80 grams of water. All the way to 210 grams. And the last pour all the way to 300 grams of water. You can see that my water never touched the side. Okay, 300 grams. Right, the total drawn down time is going to be different because I'm using a different grinder. So I think this is total drawn time is about 3 minutes, which is 30 seconds faster than when I use the DF64 with SSB Casper. Right, so let's put this aside and we'll brew the second cup of coffee. Right, so this is the Mugen dripper from Hario. Right, my first time using it. Right out of the box. Just wait for the water temperature to go up to 92. Okay, so let's start. Right, 50 grams of water. Bloom for 40 seconds using exactly the same style. So in this case, the only variation is the dripper. Everything else stays the same. Right, even though this one has low bypass, I'm still trying to keep it to the center and avoiding touching the wall, allowing the water to pass through the side of the wall. Right, so let's go all the way up to 130. Okay. All right, 210. And this Mugen dripper is a relatively cheap dripper. I think it cost me around $15 shipped to my house. Right, the last pour. All the way to 200 grams of water. That's interesting. You can see both total drawn down time is about 3 minutes, which is very, very similar to each other. Right, so now let's try to taste the coffee. Right, so let's taste both. Right, this is the first one from the standard V60. This is from the Mugen. Okay, let's do a taste comparison to see whether I can pick up any difference between these two. It's very tea-like. I think that's about the washed coffee. Has a certain amount of sweetness and juiciness to it. Okay, let's try the other one. Okay, I'm just going to cleanse my palate a little bit. Okay. Oh, there is actually a difference. Let me try that again. When I take the first sip, it appears that the Mugen is less sweet. But as I continue to drink, I think it's because I think both are very, very close to each other in terms of taste. This one, the Mugen has a little bit more body. The V60 is cleaner. But in terms of sweetness, both are actually have pretty similar sweetness. If I have to say which one is slightly sweeter, yeah, the sweetness tends to pop a little bit more with the V60 because it just gave me a cleaner cup of coffee with the sweetness just hit you right at the start. But for the Mugen, I can taste the stronger body, and then the sweetness slowly surfaces to the top. Both are very enjoyable coffee, right? And the difference is not exactly very big. So I would say maybe for my first try, it's not conclusive. The Mugen tends to give you coffee that is a slightly better in body as compared to the standard V60, right? So that's my first try, and then I'm going to continue to try to see whether I can pick up maybe the difference in the taste will be more apparent if I switch to other coffee, right? So let's see whether what I have discovered is consistent as I continue to brew with these two drippers. Right? So this is CY, thanks for joining. I will see you very soon in the next video.